ask you a question about hip-hop versus America.
Yeah.
What point do you think BET was trying to make with bringing hip-hop versus America on TV to a debate?
Well, I mean, it was important to have a serious discussion about hip-hop on our terms. I mean, you saw what Oprah did, you saw what other shows did, and it really wasn't fair to hip-hop the way Oprah phrased it. So we wanted to have a discussion that was more fair to the rappers and more on our level of discussing these very important issues.
It's been 35 years since hip-hop started, and in that time, we've watched it leave its humble beginnings in the South Bronx, rise to pop music superstardom, and go on to touch every known corner of our earth.
Or put me in the street, I'll eat till I'm full.
Hip-hop gave a voice to the voiceless, taking young urban creativity and channeling it into powerful expressions of music and culture.
Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge.
They were able to talk about the pain in their communities and the struggle in their communities, and they were able to teach people about this culture and this community.
Hip-hop provided economic opportunity, empowering industries and creating jobs like no music genre before.
I got in the clothing business. There was not one black person, period. And now it's like a hip-hop convention. When you go to the convention center in Vegas, you see so many booths that have black ownership and are part of a new black culture.
You almost got empires that are run by the artists and businessmen and women coming out of the black community, provide jobs, provide new opportunities for folks.
Yet, despite the successes, hip-hop has always had a dark side, always been a magnet for controversy and criticism.
This offends me as a black woman, still calling us hoes, bitches, and sluts. It's calling us niggers. And now it's also defaming our faith.
It's not good. It's not good for America. It's not good for other countries. It's not good for our children. It's not good for our future.
But hip-hop has survived its bruises, even the self-inflicted ones.
My son was murdered. That was my only child.
But now, with record sales lagging, its creativity in question, and the frenzied media criticism post-Imus, hip-hop is facing its toughest test yet.
The sad thing is that rap music peaked a long time ago. It's just true. We had a beautiful art form. You know, we haven't pushed it forward.
If artists, don't start becoming more creative and more demanding themselves as artists, the sales are going to keep going down.
There are a lot of executives who really are formula-driven. And some executives don't know that the only formula is truth. The only good one is inspiration that's honest. And I do believe some executives think that dirt sells.
We got to be the ones to save it, basically. We got to save hip-hop. We got to save it, man.
Today, we've come to take our beloved hip-hop to task, to find the beauty still left in it, to caress its scars and bruises, and most importantly, to hold it accountable for all its sins.
Everybody doesn't want their music to be political. Everybody doesn't want their music to tell them what to do. The things that these rappers are saying, I was doing, so I could still be out there doing. You lucky that I'm only up here saying.
I am a single mom. I have one of the hardest jobs in the world, and that's being a single mom.
Wait, fundamentally, it was based on. But you're not. What they had to change was what was wrong.
But they understand BIGPOPPA, no info for the DEA. They understand that.
We're all hanging out, and we all struggle to make it in this life, but we have to hustle and struggle to do things, and it ain't always the right way. But then when we get a felony, we can't vote. So if they could put enough pressure on us for us to have to deny ourselves the right to eat right and live right, then we're gonna get a felony. Then you know what? We can't vote the right person in the office to help us prosper in this world, man.
The question stands, as the genre that uplifted and inspired so many of us, is it now poisoning itself?
We'll kick off our show by talking about hip-hop's relationship with criminality and the streets. Have a look.
Woke up this morning. Yeah, you got yourself a gun. You from the hood, I hope ya got yourself a gun. You want beef, hope ya got yourself a gun. And when I see you, I'ma take what I want, so got yourself a gun.
For artists and fans alike, hip-hop has become shorthand for the streets. And in street law, tough guys rule.
Hip-hop's a reflection of the environment that we grew up in. It's the harsh realities.
While art does imitate street life in hip-hop, fact is, a lot of MCs are exploiting the game, using violent imagery and gangster talk just to make more money.
Anything that I say on wax, I can entertain in the streets or I can entertain on record, so that's why I do it. But, you know what I'm saying, I would rather not die for this.
America was born from violence, and popular culture has always reflected that history. Hip-hop music is just the latest chapter. Rappers say they catch all the heat from society, while violent movies, TV shows, and video games rarely come under the same kind of fire.
We're all affected by what we see growing up, right? We're all visual creatures.
So before you're a rapper or artist, anything like that, you are somebody that lives on the street, and most likely we live in black communities, and you see it. You see drugs, you hear the police sirens every night, you hear the helicopters, and you hear people getting shot.
We are the newscasters of the hood, because if, rest in peace, like my brother said, if we wouldn't talk about it, society would ignore it, like we didn't exist.
Black music has always come from the underclass. Rough and tumble juke joints birthed jazz. Street corners created doo-wop, and ghetto life was the inspiration for hip-hop. Although rap music commercial success may dwarf them all, it has never left the tough streets of its birth. And MCs have come to believe they must stay hard in order to keep credibility and sell albums.
How many MCs do you see in the industry on TV now talking something positive? How many? None. They're doing it because they say, I want to get there. They're going to do whatever we can do to get there. That's what it is.
You got to stay tough. You know what I mean? The strong only survive. You know what I mean? That motto and that mental has been programmed in our mind not to show weakness, not to show fear.
I got mine, I hope y'all.
What's up? We're getting ready to get right into this. We've got an amazing panel. Right now we have writer Osorio. From St. Louis, Nelly. The newest professor at Georgetown University, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Writer Nelson George. Writer extraordinaire, Stanley Crouch. And from ATL, T.I. T.I., I'm coming straight to you on this one. We have had music throughout the generations, whether it's jazz, whether it's doo-wop, whether it's rock, whether it's funk, that have all had connections to the street. Why is it that hip-hop seems to continue to be attacked? Is this something that's just their turn, or is this something specific to hip-hop?
I feel like, for one, I think that it's the easiest place. To sit the blame. Like I feel like that someone just wants to have something to blame society's mistakes on. And being that hip hop is probably the youngest genre of music and the most popular and the most impactful, the most sought after genre of music right now, then we're the easiest people to blame. I feel like. I mean, now don't get me wrong. Now I feel like it's a lot of artists out there that do put those images out there and try to make themselves seem cool, and you know, they promote things that they aren't willing to carry out themselves. They talk about life in the streets. They talk about carrying guns. They talk about selling drugs. Talk about going to jail when they've done none of the sort. You know, and really put the wrong images in the children's mind, trying to hype them up to do a bunch of stuff that they wouldn't do themselves. But at the same time, you got people like me. I really have done these things, and I'm just giving my testimony. No different than a preacher on Sunday when he goes up and say, hey, thou shalt not do this, that, and other. Yeah, I used to do it, but I don't now, and here's why.
Well, let me have Nelly chime in here, because I hear T.I.'s point about testimony, but it's cast on their third and fourth record. Right. And the testimony ain't that no more, because they living in the hills and their kids going to private school.
I agree.
So how do we deal with, how do we challenge that as a community? Because so often we're waiting for labels to do stuff that the community needs to do.
I agree. I think as a community we need to challenge that artist as a community. You know what I'm saying? We need to really say, okay, well, I bought that on your first joint.
Now, I know you done sold this amount of albums. I mean, I hope that you're not that ignorant that you're still doing these things that you're saying after these amount of monies has been invested in you by either these corporations or these money that you have made. Now, I think the community as a whole need to stand up and say, yo, wait a minute, Holmes. I ain't buying that. I don't believe it. And I'm not knocking gangster rap. I grew up on gangster rap. I grew up on NWA. I grew up on all that. But not once did it make me want to go out and shoot the police. Not once did it make me want to run out, kick in nobody's door with a shotgun or any of that. But I just liked the music and I understood where those brothers were coming from. You feel what I'm saying? Because it was like, yo, but did I know them? Yeah, my uncle was one. My cousin was one. You know what I'm saying? It was outside my front door, of course. And like he said again, I've done a lot of those things. You know what I'm saying? That I'm not proud of, but I took another route. I said, yo, you know what? All right, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna kick it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna take my music. Everybody doesn't want their music to be political. Everybody doesn't want their music to tell them what to do. Everybody doesn't want their music to tell them what to wear. It's a choice. You feel what I'm saying? So I chose a different route. But do I do those type of songs? Of course I do.
At the same time, artists have to take responsibility and be creative and be willing to sometimes fail so that you can do something different. You know? And then there's a self-esteem issue that's just a problem in our community in general. You know, our community has deep-seated issues that stem from a lack of self-esteem. You know, skin color, complexion, hair, just, we have so many issues we're dealing with. A lot of our women don't feel beautiful, and they'll do anything to feel it. And, you know, I think sometimes people take advantage of it. But at the same time, a lot of them are adults, and a lot of them have the power and the intelligence to make those decisions that they need to make in order to make their lives better as well. So it's not just about rappers and images and women. I think it's a cultural issue. I think that education is something that no one's talking about. I think that literacy is more important than rap music right now. And, you know, that's just something that needs to be dealt with.
50. How do you feel about the whole, in light of the whole Don Imus thing, you and Snoop being sort of the brunt of what's going on, your lyrical content?
You know, I really don't feel, you know, it's not really a tragedy to me that that's happening. You know what I mean? Like, I think for a moment that a lot of people forgot that our country's at war, and they'll point to usage of content and music like hip hop and say it's the problem. Maybe it influences violence on some levels, and not point to the actual films that are released that have the similar content and has image and sound that is definitely more impressionable than just sound. And I personally believe on every level that it's easier to attack a individual than it is to go after a corporation. You know, so they point to specific hip hop artists to go after opposed to going after Paramount or Columbia Pictures. It's a tougher fight, man. They're corporate attorneys, they beast, you know what I mean? So
I want you to follow up with the choices. Why is it that we see so many artists choosing to emulate this piece and ignoring, in many cases, emulations of history that's been positive?
First of all, crime is American is apple pie. We stole this land.
Yeah.
Everything, the foundation of America is crime. So that imbues everything that happens in society. However, we look at the thing of responsibility. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If everything you read is about crime, and you believe everything you say should be about crime, then where is the dream? Where is the other reality presented? And that's the challenge that all of these artists and all in the black community have to come up with. We have to figure out, where does it go from being an art that speaks the truth of someone's reality and a formula that's repeated just like Hollywood? When does these records become just another multi-million-dollar Schwarzenegger epic?
Brother Crouch, I want you to chime in here.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right, but I don't think that. But I don't think that everything in America is crime, because first thing, Black Americans changed many things in American law to the good.
Right, but
Black people. Wait a minute.
Fundamentally, it was based on.
But wait a minute.
What they had to change was what was wrong, because it was finished.
You can't leave out. You can't leave out the fact that Black people have, on the public record, changed things that were bad. Now, what Nelly was saying is the issue. What does a guy choose to do? And the thing is this, again, we haven't addressed enough the fact that 4 out of 5 recordings, according to Russell Simmons, the godfather of hip hop, are sold to white guys in the suburbs. So wait a minute. So fundamentally, this is a product being produced for some white boys.
So is blues music. Blues music is being, blues music right now is being consumed primarily by white people. Does it mean that B.B. King is sold his soul and therefore to white suburbia? So that litmus test, I'm not denying the legitimacy of what either of you have said, but the question is, the litmus test for the authenticity of a particular artistic expression can never be the people who consume it. Exactly. It has to be the issue of what you intend and therefore what its impact is. Let me say this secondly.
All music is being bought by majority of white people. It's not just hip hop, it's not just blues, it's not R&B. We are 20% of a population.
All right, right, I got that. But here's the problem with some of the gangster rap. I wrote a book on Tupac, who was a brilliant guy. Hold on. Scarface is one of the most, I think, underappreciated artists, the rapper Scarface. Here's my point. You can talk about it with cleverness, insight, acuity, parody. You can have a distance from it. You can say, I used to do that. Look at the consequences of a guy like me who does this. If you listen to Jay-Z, he says, I'm not trying to celebrate this or blame anybody else. These are choices I made, but no, I don't want you to do that. Hov did that, so you wouldn't have to do that. My point is this. That's a difference than a guy who is mimicking, parroting, formulaic recitations of gangster life that you ain't never lived and you ain't gonna never live and you don't understand the difference. So when you think about the fact that the institution of crime, as Nelson George has said, is American. The Kennedys, when you think about the famous families, Rockefeller, when you think about the major capitalistic empire of American society, is predicated upon deceit, thievery, mendacity, and ripping folk off. Hip-hop at its best certainly will articulate something against that, but at its worst, it reflects the very pathology of American society.
And being that you were around since the beginning of hip-hop, how do you feel about the state of hip-hop now?
Well, I think, the recent controversy over lyrics and images is a good debate to have. I think the young artists in hip-hop need to hear that. And if women are upset with images, they need to speak up and not buy the music and talk directly to the artist. So, I think it's a good dialogue going on. I regret that BET is sometimes the focal point of the argument because, we play music that our viewers want to hear and see, and if they don't, they need to let us know that.
And last, what was the point that BET was trying to make with doing the America versus hip hop debate on BET?
Well, that came, hip hop versus America came about as a result of the Imus incident and his Imus pointing the finger at rappers. And I talked to the record label heads and I said, the best thing for us to do as a network is provide a safe place for the artists to come and for the critics to come and have a conversation because they're not talking to each other. They're talking about each other. And so that's where the idea came from. And we did it, and it was a very successful news show. It got great ratings. People watched it. People talked about it online. And hopefully it'll start a long-term discussion.
You spoke a little bit about the attack on hip-hop earlier. I was appalled when I seen the Virginia Tech killings and they used your picture over the story talking about you popularized 9mm handguns. What is your feelings towards the media and their portrayal of hip-hop at this time?
Generally, the perception of me is a lot darker than I actually am. After people interact with me, they see that, but I think everybody has a right to an opinion. You know what I'm saying? On some levels, it's negative, but they do actually have that right. And if I didn't take that standpoint mentally, I would probably be shaving my head like Britney.
As an artist who does what people would consider offensive lyrics, what they would consider offensive lyrics, do you feel compelled at all to try and get with the program and not use those lyrics?
Wow, I mean, the program. Let me get this right. Okay. Wait. The president, they want to tell, are you familiar with politics? Absolutely. So you're familiar with the president's #2 man? Mm-hmm. And you're familiar with him resigning based on him using maybe what we call a dating service? Maybe he's hanging out with hoes that we mentioned in the music that makes you if that doesn't make you aware of a situation that exists, I mean, sure, the music is a mirror, and hip-hop's a reflection of the environment that we grew up in. It's the harsh realities that end up in the music. If I ask you to paint a picture of the American flag and not use the color red, you're gonna have a difficult time. You know, so to capture what we're trying to capture in the art form, I'm sure some conservative Americans can't actually ID with it because of their lifestyle and the way they've actually been brought up, and they haven't been exposed to these realities. You know, I understand it. I'm actually angry at some points when I'm confused or I don't have information. So, again, I understand why I'm constantly being attacked on some levels, but you see T.I. anxious to answer the same question because he falls into the same category. Also, all of hip-hop. It's difficult for you to find a hip-hop album that has had any success that hasn't had content on some level that was a little racy, you know?
What about Master P? He's announced that he's...
Well, Master P doesn't sell CDs anymore. You can tell him I said it. Cameras is rolling, right?
There's no doubt that the gangsta activity is very real in poor black communities, and therefore artists who are connected with gangsta activity will be singing about those realities. And they ought to be wrestling with those realities. We all ought to be concerned with those realities.
I just want to say that hip-hop didn't create violence. And you know, violence is entertaining. My favorite television show, hands down, The Sopranos. You know, I saw Tony kick someone till the teeth came out. And I like to watch that. A lot of hip-hop fans like to hear the violence. That's something that we have to just accept. Now, is that the only representation of hip-hop? Wait a second. Wait a second. It is not the only type of hip-hop that sells. So we hear a lot like, oh, well, we do this violent hip-hop because this is what's selling. No, Kanye West came out on his first album. He wasn't talking about any of that. You know what I'm saying? And he sold very well. So like I said before, we have to diversify what we're hearing and what we're taking in.
Hip-hop to me is a relation, is a way to relate to the people and the public. And like you say, Kanye dropped his first album. It was a college dropout. Okay, well, he related to a bunch of college kids. A bunch of college kids bought his records, you know what I'm saying? Whereas me, I come from an urban community. I come from the west side of Atlanta, Bankhead, one of the roughest communities in Atlanta. So I'm gonna make music that's going to relate to the people who are in and around that setting and those scenarios and those under those circumstances. And if I gotta throw some B's, N's, H's and talk about some 4, 5s, 9s and some AKs in order to trick somebody into learning some on another one of my songs on the album, then so be it. Ain't no way you can listen to a T.I. record and say that's all you got from it. Ain't no way.
And I mean, even Laura Hill said, "I throw an MF in so the ignorant hear me."
Exactly.
But Nelson, I want you to come in because even with this, and even if we buy the premise that this is just a reflection, when does it evolve to go beyond that?
It's never merely a reflection. It's an interpretation.
But here's the challenge. We have a community where we have young black men who are unemployed, young black men who are not being educated.
Right.
What these guys do, they're very skillful at it, is they make commercials. Mm-hmm. They make commercials to sell product. Mm-hmm. And they sell jeans and they sell other things aside from records. But the same information that makes them buy apple-bottom jeans does affect people's lifestyle choices. Sure. We can't negate that. A lot of artists try to say, well, the home decides that. But come on. In the real world, video games also decide it. And rap records also decide it. And movies also decide it. So we can't act like these things don't have an effect on behavior.
Let's stop giving hip-hop the blame for America's problems. It's like hip-hop is taking the blame for everything that's wrong with not just black people, with America, period. America is built on finance. Right. Finance from jump. Well, I don't care what it is. If you put one booty on TV and it sells 1 million, the next person's gonna put 2 just to sell it. You feel what I'm saying? Because why? Because, like you said again, we don't own the labels. We don't own the label, so whoever owns the label, they're about making money. You think they really give a damn if our community gets cleaned up? They don't
you
care.
have to give a damn.
I agree.
Doc, I want you to get this.
But behind that, it's about the non-for-profit organizations and people taking a chance and saying, yo, what do you do, young brother, behind the scenes that is helping your community? Come ask me. Don't just look at the TV and assume, because when you assume, you make an ass out of yourself. You feel what I'm saying? So don't do that. Just come to me and ask me. Say, yo, young brother.
Image. Here's the thing. The video of you doing whatever behavior you do is more powerful, and more penetrating into the consciousness of everyone here than your nonprofit.
Why is that?
Why is that?
Well, you know that's a standard that was set in the home.
It all starts at home. Are you a father? You're not a father, okay? I'm a father of 5, okay? And my kids watch BET, they watch all kinds of videos, they watch movies, they listen to music, they like 50, they like Lil Wayne, they like, you know, whomever you can mention. But when my children look at this TV and see these videos and listen to this music, I don't care how impressionable it is. They know they ain't gonna have to deal with 50, they gonna have to deal with daddy. You dig what I'm saying? And I think that's where it starts. I think that we're looking to the rappers, athletes, and actors to raise our children instead of doing it ourselves in our homes. That's honestly my opinion. And I think that people are blaming hip-hop, you know, when they really should be looking in the mirror and blaming themselves. You know, how much more time could I have been there for my child? You know, I'm on a CD. He listened to me, but you know, I can't listen back. You know, I talk to him. He can't. I don't know what he getting from it. You do. You know what I'm saying? You know when he wake up and you see him dressed in a shirt you never seen him in before, and you know what I'm saying, you figure this could be the beginning of something, why don't you stop and why don't you talk to him about it? Ask him where he got that from. You know, if you don't do that, it's gonna grow into something bigger and bigger. You dig what I'm saying? The things that I say come from the life that I used to live. And this is like he said, a harsh reality that maybe most of you are fortunate enough to not to have ever dealt with. You know what I'm saying? Most of y'all don't know what it's like, the way if you don't sell this bomb of dope, you ain't gonna have nothing to eat for the next 3 days. You know, most of y'all don't know what that life is like. And I know the B word, the H word, and the N word are the words that's under attack right now. But I don't know if you know it or not, people, but it are bitches, niggas, and hoes that live in America. And as long as that fact exists, I think rappers deserve the right to talk about it.
BlackTree TV, standing here with Manny Fresh. How you doing today, Manny?
I'm good. How you doing, baby?
I'm blessed, baby. I want to ask you, how do you feel about the state of hip hop?
You know, it's different, you know, but it's another generation, you know, and it's my job, I guess, you know, to go with what music is doing, you know, but for me, I ain't gonna say I'm totally happy with it, but I ain't mad at it either.
Yeah. Because the reality is that we can talk about this, but there are young people dying on a daily basis. And our young people are being labeled as deviant when they copy. White kids are being labeled as rambunctious.
No doubt.
And so how do you deal with that piece?
Amnesty International said that the same offense that a young white Johnny and Jill don't do that anymore, whereas Shaniqua and Shaquille are sent to detention, which is a warehouse for jail, which becomes a introduction to prison. But here's the problem. It's not that hip-hop has to bear a disproportionate weight. You can't, on the one hand, say we're the most deep and profound global phenomenon that has changed the culture of people around the world. You go to South Africa and Soweto, you go to Israel, they got Pac and Biggie. Never been to Brooklyn, never been to Bedford-Stuyvesant, but they understand B-I-G-P-O-P-P-A, no info for the DEA. You know, they understand that. Now, you can't on the one hand say that you possess the linguistic and rhetorical genius to transform the consciousness of people, and at the same time say you bear no responsibility.
Exactly.
You gotta bear some responsibility. Let me finish. So, and I know you agree with this. I'm saying to you, it is tragic to me that a Snoop Dogg video can have more global access than a W.E.B. Du Bois book, but that's the world we live in. So the question is, it's not that hip-hop is responsible for educating the world, but it is responsible for educating itself and not reproducing the pathology of what it inherited. If you're different and you transform and you involve, then you make a difference. And I'll say this in ending here. It is not that hip-hop should be made 21, 22, 23, 24-year-old young people are now becoming responsible for our race. No. But you do have an impact upon the minds of young people who look at a Nelly or a T.I. and look up to them. I came from the same street. Brother, I'm from the west side of Detroit. Detroit, West Side. I was born in a set. Hold on. My brother, let me tell you, my brother is serving life in prison for a murder we believe he didn't commit, but for murder right now. Don't tell me that I don't know because I got a PhD from Princeton. I might not be spitting on the wax, but I'm dropping mad science. I'm a PIMP, a public intellectual with moral principles. That's what I'm doing too.
I want to follow up on what Dr. Dyson is talking about. And because what I hear him saying is what I hear people saying all the time, but who is mentoring artists? Because it's not like some purple haze comes down out the sky when you sign a deal that says, now I'm enlightened.
But see, that's the thing, hold on, I'm sorry, but that's the thing, like, me and T.I., we don't have to be here. There's no way, like you saying with the, with the brunt of what is going on, like,
and that's your responsibility as an artist and a human being.
I'm not worried about a corporate sponsor. Right. You feel what I'm saying? I'm not worried about that. Now, would I like to have him when I leave here? Of course I would like to have him when I leave here. But am I worried about him? I mean, I'm not worried about him because, why? Because every time this issue comes up, you playing my video. You feel what I'm saying? Every time this issue comes up, my name is mentioned. And as a person, as a man, I feel like, well, hold up. You feel what I'm saying? Let people understand who I am because I feel like I'm being unjustly, you know what I'm saying, judged by something that is 4 minutes long. Now, you feel what I'm saying?
Wait. T.I., I want you to come in and then I got to get Kim. I still need to deal with how do we deal with artists who need to be, if you want artists to give a different message, who touches them?
Don't get me wrong now. If you ask me, do some artists need to be held responsible for their actions and for their lyrics and for them taking it too far sometimes? Absolutely. If you ask me, have we made mistakes as a genre for glorifying this group or that group when when they don't deserve it? Of course we have. But you can't blame that on everybody. I'm taking responsibility by sitting up here. I'm going against the grain now. Ain't nobody else up here. Was Tip Drill? Ain't nobody else up here.
That's my point. Ain't nobody else up here.
Nelly, let me ask you, was Tip Drill a mistake? Was Tip Drill a mistake? Was Tip Drill a mistake?
I don't, me personally, wait a minute. Me personally, do I feel that Tip Drill, I don't feel like Tip Drill was a mistake. I feel like Tip Drill was made for an adult program that came on at an adult time, that was parental advisory, you know what I'm saying, that was stated before you even look at this. Now, a lot of people had a problem with the Tip Drill because of the credit card swipe. Okay, but the credit card swipe is at the end of the credit card swipe was at the end of the video. Wait a minute, the credit card swipe is at the end of the video. So you tell me you sat through 4 minutes of the video, and then all of a sudden, when it came to that credit card swipe, that's when you felt the pause.
But let me tell you, the credit card,
who idea what to do and to be that as it made, the idea of the old credit card scene was the young ladies.
White chocolate.
Internalized white supremacy.
And I'm gonna let the young lady come in and have the last word.
Can't be serious.
I'm gonna just say this. You know, we're talking about Tip Drill, which has unfortunately defined Nelly's career now. Because why? His star quality was so much bigger than all of the other artists that were doing it. So someone said, aha, we got them. We got them because Nelly's selling millions of records. So all the while hip hop was doing this and degrading women, it was okay. But we need to look at that now as an example, and we need to tell Nelly how important it is that maybe he should regret it. Why? Because being Nelly, you're at a different level than a lot of other hip hop artists. And that's the thing.
Well,
because you have a lot of,
when you swipe a credit card down a woman's behind, it shows the relationship between slavery, where women were sold on an auction block for crass commercialism, and her ass, which now becomes the commodity to be consumed by a black male rapper. That's what I'm saying.
How is it that an 18-year-old girl who probably just got out of high school said that by looking at the TV?
She didn't, I did.
But what I'm saying,
that's your interpretation.
But what was you doing up at 3 in the morning watching uncut videos?
Oh, I watch all of it.
That was his choice, though.
Because I'm a cultural critic. That's my job. I'm supposed to look at that.
I changed my life. I don't want to die in the street. I want to die in the hood. I want to make it out.
I'm Tashia with BlackTree TV, standing here with the one and only Dr. Michael Dyson. I'm blessed, and you?
I'm doing fine as well.
Well, I want to say you really did make an impact on America versus hip hop. It's sounds like you're very educated on the hip hop. And
I tried. I raised my son here. This is my son, Michael Eric Dyson, number 2. We grew up together. I was a teen father. So because I wanted to listen to what he was listening to, I wanted to monitor it, be able to engage in instructive conversation and intelligent conversation. So I wanted to learn as much as I could about him.
how do you feel about the Gen 6 and the injustice with Michael Bell going back to jail recently?
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the repressive state mechanism that tries to keep young black men under the foot of an unjust system is ridiculous. I spoke to Michael Bell's father earlier today, and I told him and the other parents of Gen 6 that we're with you, because we as Americans must stand up. Instead of holding congressional hearings on hip-hop, we ought to be trying to scrutinize the unjust and immoral and unethical practices of a government that tends to target young black men without giving them any sense of justice.
What do you think about the state of hip-hop seeming that you're coming in at a time where it's changing?
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I think hip-hop changing a lot, but I think on the next generation for the hip-hop, you feel me? I feel I'm the ear for that, you know what I'm saying? Everything got to change one day, real talk.
I see young people are way more tolerant and appreciative of each other's culture than we've ever had in the history of this country. And this connection that was made, over these years, where Compton now speaks to Beverly Hills, and where kids see each other in the same way. They've probably done more for race relations than all the civil rights leaders. I can put all the rabbis and imams together, all of the organizations from different ethnicities together, and they wouldn't do half the that rappers do.
Welcome back to BET's Hip Hop Town Hall about the state of hip hop. I'm Toure. We're talking about airing our dirty laundry in front of white folks. Take a look.
With all that big willy talk hot, you're playing yourself. With all that big gun talk bop, you're playing yourself. With all that rah rah rah, you're playing yourself. You're playing yourself. You're playing yourself.
The white normative gaze has always been a problem in the black community. How do you behave in front of white brothers and sisters?
Other cultures do that, they get ridiculed. We do it, we sell records and we get praised and everybody happy and clapping and dancing. So there be some kind of limits on what we do and say.
There's some aspects to our culture that are for our culture, and they don't need to be displayed, they don't need to be capitalized on, they don't need to be commercialized.
Black pathology is becoming so visible that it makes all of us look bad.
Everybody ain't no gangster, everybody ain't a thug, everybody ain't trying to kill nobody, everybody ain't a dope dealer.
Just because I dress a certain way doesn't mean I am the way they're portrayed in these rap songs and the way people see me.
50 Cent, back on that gangsters. On my way, OT to flip them.
I feel like you have Joe and Schmo that's in Montana that have never seen black people and have never experienced black culture, and then what they see in hip-hop is what they bring to their interactions with African Americans.
Listen, if you have one of your crazy house party things, shout me a holler down.
I like hip-hop music and I like the lyrics. I think there are a lot of white people across all generations that could learn from the usage of the words in those lyrics. I have homemade CDs in my car called Pimpin' and Pumpin'.
For the world to interpret hip-hop as the one mirror to see black people through, it's a horrible misconception, a horrible misconception.
My kid's mother black. I mean, I got black relatives, you know what I mean? You can't go by what you see on TV.
There needs to be a wider spectrum of representation for most of the black people, not just the niggas. We've had enough of the niggas on TV. I don't like niggas, I like black people.
Once again, we got a panel of deep thinkers, director Benny Boom, Nelly, Master P, the former editor-in-chief of Essence magazine, Diane Weathers, Reverend Sharpton, and your man, T.I. Nelly, how do all the white fans in hip-hop impact the music and the culture?
Well, I think you're dealing with numbers. I mean, you're dealing with numbers. You're dealing with a country where we're not even 20% of the main population, so in order for an artist to be selling 4 or 5 million records, I mean, obviously they're reaching out to a different audience than what they probably set out to reach. If you look at music as a whole, I mean, even with rock and roll, black people came up with rock and roll, white people jumped on it. People came up with pop music and R&B, they jumped on it. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it doesn't matter what we come up with as a community as a whole, because I mean, black people, like my man said earlier, we make We make lemonade out of lemons. You know, whatever you giving us since we were slaves, you giving us the leftover pig and all that, we make soul food.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's whatever you give us that we take and we try to make a good situation out of it. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
But T.I., help me out, because in the 80s, most hip-hop fans were black.
Right.
And somewhere in the 90s, most hip-hop fans became white, or at least those buying the records. So, and that kind of changed the whole thing, right?
I mean, you know, anything is going to expand and evolve. You know, you can say the same thing about hip-hop music as you can say about the crack epidemic. It started with black people, spread it out to white people. Anything gonna start with one group of people, and if it's as successful as they hope for it to be, it will expand and it will evolve and it will reach other races and walks of life.
Benny, what do you think?
We do what we do as black people, and I don't think we should hide it or be ashamed of it. Everything we do there's an essence of being black, so to speak, and learn about it, you know, in school. And whether it's about chicken, and you know, I saw some of the stuff, and you got, you know, Trick Daddy eating chicken, like there's something supposed to be wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what we do.
Like white people don't eat chicken.
Right, like they don't eat chicken or that. We should be ashamed of ourselves for eating chicken. It's like we shouldn't tailor our behavior in terms of how we relate to each other just because somebody might be watching.
Well, I agree that we do go too far. I do agree. I'm sorry, sister. I do agree that we do go too far sometimes, and we do need to catch ourselves. But as a whole, I don't think that needs to be the overall view. I think that one moment in time is being captured and being titled for the rest of our lives.
Jump in.
Yeah, I don't care about what white people think. I care about what my family thinks. You know? Really. Damn. You know? And it's kids, it's growing up. You know, I've done a lot of writing about relationships, and our black and our relationships between men are jacked up enough without seeing the predatory behavior. We're more than that. We are not just gangbangers, and we don't see us. We don't see us.
Wow.
We don't see our diversity.
I think what the problem is that, like I said, we don't glorify each other. That's the biggest issue we have right now. We glorify everything else. Yeah. We hate everything each other do. Just like right now, you got us going up against each other. That's what they want to see. But the real big picture is this is the debate. This is not us. We definitely growing up and maturing. And we want people to see that, but we're not glorifying the people that are doing the right things. That's the biggest problem. Right now, T.I., Nelly, we are growing up. We are maturing. So we're not running around here shooting at each other. Think about it. We at another level of the game. And we're not recognizing. I'm just saying, like,
why isn't the music? I mean,
the music is coming.
Going?
The music. Right now, I just did Take a Stand records. I did No Limit. I sold 75 million records off of Street Shoot 'em Up Bang Bang. Guess what? I changed my life. As soon as I said I was gonna change my life, I get dissed by I'm just being honest with you. I get dissed by my own people. Say, Pete, I changed my life. I don't want to die in the street. I want to die in the hood. I want to make it out.
It's difficult for you to find a hip hop album that has had any success that hasn't had content on some level that was a little racy. You know.
What about Master P? He's announcing he's
well, Master P doesn't sell CDs anymore. You tell him I said it. Cameras is rolling, right?
Welcome to part 2 of our 3-part series, Hip Hop versus America. Tonight we discuss the impact of big business on hip hop and the portrayal of women in its music and videos.
That person who you say is the scum of the earth, he was probably one of your sons.
When Hugh Hefner was doing it way before us, it was never known Playboy against America.
Boo, buffoons, gold tooth.
We're not keeping the show honest.
Be honest for me. All right.
Tattoos, bling wearing.
Come on, in suit jackets and long skirts in that video, and BET say, what is this? We can't play this.
If you reduce a female to a bitch, a hoe.
You know what? I'm not gonna take this no more.
Back to Hip Hop versus America. I'm Jeff Johnson. We're having a frank conversation about the state of hip hop. Next, we'll look at why the marriage between hip hop and big business is a loveless one. Check this out.
The more money you make, the more problems you get.
5 carats on my hands with the cuts.
bottoms, it's all about the Benjamins, what?
Hip-hop has become very commercial to the point now where these rappers feel like they have to talk about bling just to make the money.
They feel this is a new era. It's time to talk about rims. It's time to talk about jewelry. It's time to talk about bling bling.
They have to think in a way, what's gonna sell, what's gonna work, what's gonna get put on the radio.
If you talk about shooting, that's what's gonna sell. But if you talk about, let's do the positive thing, let's go to college, you're not gonna sell.
Everybody sound the same, commercialize the game, reminiscing when it wasn't all business.
A lot of people's not being themselves, you know what I'm saying? They like following other people, or they're doing what other people tell them to do.
Artists don't try to develop a career, they try to develop like a hit CD or a hit single.
This is why I'm hot.
Obviously, corporate America, the record companies are supporting this mentality, which is why you can get this kind of music played on the radio.
This is why I'm hot.
Nothing good is coming out of the commercialization of hip-hop.
Hip-hop has lost a lot of its political emphasis that it might have had in the past.
There's no creativity in hip-hop.
So I guess maybe that's good, that more people have ways to make money than before.
The good thing is, you know what I'm saying, a lot of people's eating, you know, like a lot of people's, you know, getting rich off of it.
Hip-hop is driven by money. It's all fueled by monetary gain and not artistic integrity. And I think that's sadly the future of where we're going, and that's the evolution of hip-hop.
Rap won't even exist anymore if they keep letting it go like that.
Chuck, let me come right into you on this. Has hip-hop sold out to corporate America?
Well, number one, corporate America's interest is to separate people, turn people into product, consumers, and to have whatever package goes their way. You gotta remember, as black folks, you know, we were all sold just like product too. So often there gotta be some sort of separations, what's business versus what's really kind of keeps us going as family. So we gotta break it down to some kind of structure where we feel comfortable to doing our art and our business.
And with that, Farai, thank you, Chuck. With that, Farai, we're talking about trying to create that difference and that delineation. But so often, there are those that are viewing hip-hop as really just that, an economic opportunity. How can you maintain integrity when money in many cases is the issue?
I can't answer that question, but I would like to ask Nelly because, you know, I am very aware of the work that you've done with trying to get black folks to be bone marrow donors, and I'm very aware of Tip Drill. And on NPR's News and Notes, which I host, we did something on the sexual economy of pornography and how black people fare in that. And black people are discriminated against in the porn industry. We get lower wages, believe it or not. There have been discrimination lawsuits about strippers. And so I wonder, when you do a video like Tip Drill, do you think about yourself as someone who's setting a price on the black female body?
Well, first of all, the porn business is a $2 billion a year business. And whether you like it or not, it's been here before hip hop was here, and it's going to be here far after hip hop, even if it, you know, if hip hop leaves. So corporate America, be that as it may, every major hotel chain participates in pornography. You can go to any hotel right now, click on there and order a movie, clean off the, you know, right off your TV set.
But what about you?
Me as a whole, I do some music that are for adults, some music that are for some music that are for children.
But Nelly, let me get to the question.
Wait a minute.
No, let me get right to because I want to hear.
You gotta let this man finish his point.
I gotta be the moderator.
But man, he's gotta finish. You gotta let him finish his point.
I'm gonna let him finish the point, brother. But let's go here, because the question that she asked, was, do you sell out for the money? And
well,
so
I was going to get to that. I was going to get to that question, but my overall view was that it's a world thing. It's not just Nelly selling out as far as, you know what I'm saying, do I sell out the Tip Drill? No, I don't feel like I do. Do I sell out the sister? No, I do not. Did I go grab the sister and say, yo, you're being in my video whether you like it or not? No, we presented a job opportunity, and some people came in and they read what was going to be the requirements for the job, and they agreed, as adults do. They make choices in this America, in this place that we call America. You know, that's what America is. It's the right to say yes or no. That's the country that we live in. We have the right to say yes or no. You know what I'm saying? Whether you like it or not, you can say yes or no. That's America, freedom of choice. So by presenting them with that opportunity, Some of these young ladies actually needed that money for whatever reason that they stated for, to do whatever purpose that they need, whether it be to send their child to school, whether it be to send their child to daycare so they can go to school and get an education. Now, I agree, when we did tip drill, and I wanted to address to the ladies to Spelman, you know, when I came down and to do a bone marrow drive, to talk to the sisters, to try to educate more black people upon cancer and leukemia and things that were positive, I got a backlash and I was going to get protested. You feel what I'm saying? And I felt that was unfair, and I am a little bitter on this subject because I was doing that to help find a donor for my sister that is no longer with me right now. And I feel I was robbed out of an opportunity to help find a donor because I did an adult video that was for adults. And instead of you pulling a brother to the side and saying, yo, brother, after we try to help you find a donor for your sister and help educate the rest of the world on leukemia and cancer, something that's killing our community, then we need to have this discussion over here, which I wouldn't have no problem about doing. But
No,
you want to
let me-
protest, wait a minute, you want to protest my stance and deny me a chance of saving my sister. Now, my sister is gone. But you have yet to protest, you have yet to picket in front of any of them strip clubs that are no more block than a 10-block radius from your school.
And I want us to get back to that, but Nelson, I want us to be able to deal with this piece because there's so much that is dealt with when we talk about creativity and money. And is hip hop now in a place where creativity is not rewarded because executives that have no creativity are telling artists what they have to do to sell?
Well, there's a disconnect in the United States between hip hop and its roots. And I say United States specifically. If you travel, I just came back from France. They still do graffiti art. When you look at some of the other things in history that we've dealt with, from the Nelson Mandela, there was anti-crack, some of the stuff Chuck did. I mean, we have a tradition in our music of talking about all the conditions that affect us, not just whether or not we can sell records, whether or not we got bling. And to pick up on Nelly's point, the real issue here is some artists have talked about it, but it's not their single, it's not their video. And those are decisions that are made outside of them. We need to be interrogating the record companies. The artists have responsibility as well. They're all, I don't want to disconnect that. The record company, the artists have responsibility, and the radio stations. So we have to make sure this whole matrix of things control how this expression goes.
Yeah.
Has hip hop lost its essence at all?
Nah, I don't think. I mean, it's still there. I mean, even if people talk bad about hip hop now, you know, they say it's kind of went to a certain kind of party thing and all this kind of stuff. But what people fail to realize, I mean, it started in the party. I mean, it was never like, you know, you got to be a conscious rapper and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's been a misconception about what hip hop really is, and I think people kind of putting their own kind of definition on it has kind of messed it up in a way. Okay. You know, hip hop ain't being super conscious and talking about, you know, black power all the time, or it ain't, you know, talking about, you know, being a gangster all the time, or it ain't talking about partying all the time. It's all of that. You know, nobody was like tripping when, you know, there was songs like, got a new dance called the Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
You know, nobody was tripping on it, you know, because it was just all a part of it. So I love it, you know, because it all goes in cycles. Like right now, people kind of looking funny at Atlanta, you know, because we've been snapping and popping and dancing and all that kind of stuff for a minute, but that was all part of the party.
Right.
But what to come next is like the reaction to that, because a lot of people, you know, they feel like it's a new time for something.
Definitely.
And so it's always going back and forth, so you got to love it, either way it go.
Weigh in, Stanley, on this.
Yeah, but now, one thing is that Russell Simmons and others have made the point that 4 out of 5 videos and rap recordings are sold to white boys in the suburbs. Now, whatever you want to say, that means that the majority of this material is bought outside of the community it's supposed to be describing. So that community obviously likes these jigaboo, buffoons, gold-toothed, tattooed, bling-wearing guys, killing each other, selling drugs. They like that image.
Well,
and
so
wait, no. Here's the thing. Well, wait a minute.
Oh, sure, go ahead. Because I'm one of them gold too.
Now, yeah, I know it.
I got two of them.
I know it. But the point is that those images are tailor-made for a particular community, the suburbs. And see, that's the issue, it seems to me.
So you're going to what Chuck said earlier about the fact that people in their image are being marketed for another group of people. I want to get to Mike on this real quick. Mike, weigh in real quick for me.
I mean, a lot of people try to hide what's really going on in the streets. I mean, they're going after hip-hop because we're addressing what's really going on in the streets that people try to hide. I mean, when you watch news, they hide everything that's going on. They hide it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, when you actually sit back and watch TV, they hide what's going on. You know what I'm saying? They'll edit, they cut, they chop. You know what I'm saying? And we as rappers are the only ones that's really letting people know what's really going on. And like Nelly said, I mean, the video, you got some for adults, you got some for kids. You know what I'm saying? You got some, I mean, that's why it's called BET Uncut. Uncut. It's uncut. You don't let your kids watch that uncut. You don't let your kids watch that. When you go in a hotel, they got flicks. You know what I'm saying? And when you lay down, you do what you do.
But Mike,
you know what I'm saying?
But wait.
I mean, right.
And though
keep it real. I mean, you know.
And though we know that they cut BET Uncut.
Right. Well,
I don't want Stanley to get off the hook here.
They cut it because of stuff like this. No, but look, they cut it because of stuff like this. See, it's what you call entertainment. When Hugh Hefner was doing it way before us, it was never no Playboy Against America. You know what I'm saying? But then you got songs where you want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? You got songs where, like Nelly, he does songs that's entertainment. That's something that everybody can listen to. But then you're a grown man at the end of the day too. I mean, I know me. I go to strip club, I like to have fun.
Well, I don't
know. But hold on. Wait.
That since the beginning of time, and this present situation is just one instance of it, the challenge is always greed, pleasure, and power. More money, more stimulation, more status. All of them idolatrous in the end. We all need money, we all need some pleasure. We all like to have a little bit of status. But when those are the only ones coming at one, especially when you're young, with powerful television and video and film and so forth, and music, that people get stunted, their growth gets stunted, because they don't realize there's other things in life other than just greed, pleasure, power, status, and wealth.
I don't want to get off where Stanley was.
I don't want to
because there was a value placement. There was a value placed on who is in this music and who it's marketed to. For I need to come back to
what I want to say just briefly is that the same thing that we talk about with who listens to hip hop in terms of race, it's also gender. So many women listen to hip hop, and I feel like we're fundamentally disrespected every day. The question is, why do we keep buying it? That's the question I have.
Nelly, hold on. Nelly, I want you to have a last word on this.
I think as a whole, I don't think we're giving our sisters enough credit. I don't think we're giving our sisters enough credit for understanding, like, yo, he's not talking about me. He's having fun.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I don't think we're giving our sisters enough credit.
It's all those other B's and H's, not me.
No. I'm just saying, I just don't think we're giving our sisters enough credit. I just don't. I think at the same time.
So it's not about anybody? Everybody is not her?
No.
Wait a minute, Holmes. I think it goes back to the freedom of expression. You feel me? If you look at what's happened out here as far as with the border control, you had the riots with the Mexicans protesting against the police. You saw the police brutality of everything that was going on. Now, if you'd had one of those young Mexican brothers go to the studio and make a song called F the Police, because he just had his head beat last night, beat in by the police, then we should understand why he's doing this. He's saying, yo, why are you making this song? It's because, yo, I just saw the police beat my little brother down in the street. I just saw the police hit me over the head with a flashlight. So obviously I have a passion right now to go in the studio and say, you know what? I'm not going to take this no more. Now, resulting to the question of what you're saying as far as political, if I come in the house and I'm married, and I come in the house and my wife is in the room with 3 other guys, I have a right to go to the studio that night and say, yo, I hate this beat.
Wait.
It's not like I'm saying that for every young sister. I'm not like I'm saying that for every young sister that's out there.
Nelly, you absolutely have the right.
Yeah.
But my question is, why is everything so carbon copy? Why is every woman in X, Y, and Z popular videos look the same? That's not about free expression. That's about mind control.
No, but
and at the end of the day, wait. We're gonna have to move on to the next subject because I've heard everything that's been said. And at the end of the day, the problem that I have is we're still not talking about how do we control the distribution of our own stuff. And whether it's marketed to white America or marketed to the rest of the world, we're not the ones really making the money on it. Nelson, before we get out of here, talk to me about how do we begin to go from just being independent labels to being independent distribution machines that really deal with the dollar value in hip-hop and it coming back to the people who really create it.
Well, look, the bottom line is that this is beyond this. The economic models we're talking about don't exist anymore. The record business is a dinosaur.
Right.
Period. So we're talking about the internet. We're talking about alternative means. The ways in which hip-hop and in fact, anybody can profit from music, we don't even know right now, quite honestly, because we're still figuring it out. I mean, but the interesting thing, one of the models that is obvious, and it goes right back to this idea of who controls it. Corporations are sponsoring tours. Corporations are sponsoring, a guy like Nelly, Hennessy might say, I'm going to put him on a 40-city tour or whatever. So you're going to see more and more corporate relationships with hip-hop. It's not going to get lessened, it's going to get more intense.
Well,
all right. Hold on, y'all. Nelly, I gotta go on this. I gotta go on this. I got to.
We're not keeping the show honest because we're not keeping it honest.
Be honest for me. Be honest for me.
We have to be honest because, I mean, let's not act like we haven't grown. Let's not act like we have more black billionaires today now than we have ever had in this country, period. You feel what I'm saying? The only reason that we do have this.
All right,
what you say?
Bitches, hoes, and pimps. We still got to deal with that.
Of course.
Now it's not just about a girl, it's about body parts. It's about who's got the biggest booty.
You spoke a little bit about the attack on hip-hop earlier. I was appalled when I seen the Virginia Tech killings and they used your picture over the story talking about you popularized 9mm handguns. What is your feelings towards the media and their portrayal of hip-hop at this time?
Generally, the perception of me is a lot darker than I actually am. After people interact with me, they see that, you know. But I think everybody has a right to an opinion. You know what I'm saying? On some levels, it's negative, but they do actually have that right. And if I didn't take that standpoint mentally, I would probably be shaving my head like Britney.
There's no shortcuts and there's a lot of sacrifices involved in this game that nobody will ever tell you. You're asking for a lot when you want to become, you know, as visible as, you know, some people on this carpet or for that. Yeah, exactly. The right way. It's just be careful. Like, be careful what you wish for.
It's the young girls that are watching that need to see more role models so that they can feel comfortable with making a decision as to, I want to be like her. And what's happening is these particular women are being glorified in these videos, and you know, young girls don't know any better. They're watching the TV, they see that young girl getting all of the attention because they're not getting it. And I was one of those girls who didn't get attention from my daddy. So now, does that mean attention from any man in any kind of way is good? No.
Welcome back to Hip Hop vs. America, where we're tackling the hip hop debate head on. I'm Jeff Johnson, and we're talking about women and hip hop. Check this out.
Seeing is believing. Seeing is believing.
The only reason I'm in the video is probably because I had a big butt. Of course, it's my butt.
How did we get here?
I don't think it's a bad thing to be in a music video. I love music videos.
From Bubba Sparks' Miss New Booty to 50 Cent's Disco Inferno, it seems like all today's black woman has to offer is a fat ass.
This is a vestige of slavery, the idea that a black woman is there to work, reproduce, and now she's not there to reproduce. but there's still her sexuality for sale.
What used to be confined to pornography is now moving to the mainstream in order to make big money.
I have a good time in the club. Why I can't have a good time in front of the camera? What's the difference? The art form of dance, of choreography, has gone away. I mean, you might think of a Beyonce video or a Sierra video where you still see, where you feel like, okay, they've done some real choreography here. But a lot of the male-oriented videos, they just up there shaking and acting like there's 2 minutes out of the strip club.
I think what the thing is with black women and how we're sexualized, there's that extra layer of racism there, and there's that extra layer of dehumanization.
You can't stop documenting, or you can't stop doing that because people think that that's wrong. You know?
What's the big deal? It's a video. You don't see white people coming down on white videos when white girls are shaking.
When you have white women who are overly sexualized and that's their only purpose, you can still imagine them in a different form because you can turn the channel and see them doing other things.
Look, if my daughters grow up and they're like, hey, Dad, I'm about to be in Nelly new video. I'm like, word. So how are you going to be portrayed and understand that this image is going to follow you?
Ultimately, when we look at these images, and when we look at the way that we've allowed it to translate down to our girls, we have to be able to admit wherever the spiritual lacking is that would allow us to accept that is problematic.
We certainly need more women who are free, who are critical, who are courageous. Because a lot of this just has to do with people are just too conformist and complacent and too cowardly and just obsessed with making money and fitting in by any means, becoming well-adjusted to injustice.
We're about to get right up into this right now. Melissa Ford, you are a former video model turned actress and one of, in many cases, the poster women for what a video girl is. What responsibility do rap videos, hip-hop videos have on the negative images of black women?
I mean, the landscape of videos has changed drastically, even since I was a participant in music videos. It was a way to supplement my income in order to pay for my education. I was pursuing higher education. I was in university. So it was just a way to make some extra money. I sacrificed, you know, I made choices. I always understood that it was a choice that I had. Girls didn't aspire to be video models like they do now. Now they don't seem to have goals past becoming a video model because the position has been glorified.
And I'm not gonna knock the sacrifice.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is I wanna deal with the product.
The product.
And so I'm not knocking the hustle. The hustle is real, and there are women who are making it work.
Yes,
but
there are.
What the product that's being produced, how has that negatively or positively affected the images of black women?
Now it's not just about a girl. It's about body parts. It's about who's got the biggest booty. It really is about who's got the biggest booty now. She's the biggest star. Girls clamor for the camera. They want the most burn. So in order to get that, they're willing to do more salacious things than a girl who looks at the wardrobe and says, you know, I'm not comfortable wearing that. I'm not comfortable doing that. It's a matter of choice. My moral and value system indicated that I wasn't comfortable doing certain things, whereas another girl was like, hey, whatever, give me the skimpiest thing, point me towards the camera, and I'm gonna make it work for myself. So unless there's people present within your life in order to make you understand that it's fantasy and not reality, it's really going to have a very, very strong effect on you and how you present yourself as a young woman to the world.
Nelly, let me have you chime in there, because I think one of the things that Melissa just talked about is real. There is not an understanding between fantasy and reality. People don't know what happens behind the scenes. How do we as a community deal with that when so many of these young women are wanting to be this because they feel like it's real when it's a game?
I think, again, it goes back to the family. It goes back to the household. It goes back to the father and the mother instilling certain values within the daughter, saying, yo, listen to this. Your body is your best, is your temple. You know, you cherish that. If you want to be respected, you respect yourself first, and then the choices that you choose, you will be judged for later on in life. So I think those are the things that you have to, you know, you have to constantly say that. A lot of girls, like she said again, when she did it to help get her through college. So she had a purpose for doing it. You feel what I'm saying? But
So
you don't know that
we-
purpose.
So do we feel like the purpose because I know people that like I'm selling weed. I'm selling rocks to go to college.
Life is sacrifice.
So no. So hear me out though.
Right.
So does the means justify the outcome?
That's not for me to judge, but what I'm saying is that life is sacrifice. Somebody has to sacrifice in order for the next generation to succeed. You can't do everything right for the next generation to come along. Then they have nothing to shoot for. If everything is going right for this generation, then what is this generation going to shoot for? It's a building process. We've been set back 400 years. We got a lot of catching up to do, regardless, and a lot of sacrifice must be made in order to catch up. So if this sister has to sacrifice for the next young sister to say, you know what, I appreciate what Melissa did, but I also learned that behind the scenes, Melissa got a lot of things going for her. She started her own company. She started her own business. So now when I go in, I just don't want to be a video vixen. I want to be an entrepreneur who started out doing videos. You see what I'm saying?
So Mike, I want you to hold on to you real quick. I want Mike to come in, Dr. Dyson, excuse me, to come in because you've been sitting more still than I've ever seen you sit, which means you brewing. So chime in on this for me.
Well, look, first of all, we can't pretend that the gluteus emphasis on Maximus has been has been articulated first off in hip-hop. I was on the street corners in Detroit. I'm 48 years old. I heard a brother say, girl, you got a great future and it's all behind you. So the reality is that it didn't begin there. But the problem is the reduction of the complexity of black female identity to the gluteus maximus, because what about a brain? What about a heart? What about a soul? We can look at this woman who is ebony ecstasy and furrowed in coffee flesh, and we can see that she's extraordinarily beautiful. But obviously she has a cerebral capacity that is defying what she looks like in terms of stereotypes. But here's the problem. The tragedy is that so many women are reduced to shaking their behinds, their belligerent behinds or their bouncing bosoms to make a living as a means toward an end, as opposed to in a society where we open up space of opportunity for black women to choose other routes than being a video vixen or employing their bodies as a means toward an end. See, Nelly, as brilliant and good looking as he is, doesn't have to have only the display of his physical masculinity as a means to achieve his end. So already in a patriarchal box, we're placing women in a narrow framework that only allows them to work that behind toward a higher goal. But the tragedy is that the masses of black women and others are being taught that their bodies are their most important possession. They are temples, but as a means toward an end that they don't always control. And finally, let me say this. The tragedy is that when we look at black America, women are being reduced to their essential physical embodiment, not just in hip-hop. If you look at the church, black women constitute 75 to 80%.
And I want you to stay right there.
And you're watching BlackTree.
We've got these kind of arguments where somebody says, well, black people don't make Smith & Wesson. Black people didn't make knives. Black people don't make razors. They might use them, but they don't make them. But the point is, if I take a gun and I murder him, I'm guilty of that. It doesn't make any difference who made the gun. In other words, if you make a sexist video, if you make a dehumanizing video, if you reduce a female to a bitch, a hoe, if you elevate a pimp who is one of the most scurry people on the face of the earth, if you do that, you have done something wrong.
I think it's very important to keep it in mind that misogyny and patriarchy are very much a way of life in America. It goes from Wall Street to Main Street, and hip-hop in its dominant forms contributes to the worst of degraded images of women, especially black women. At the same time, you've got hip-hop artists who are very critical of those degrading images, but those artists don't receive the kind of visibility they deserve.
Here's the question.
Right.
If that's the reality,
thank you,
is hip-hop the culprit, or do we have to deal with the fact that the black church is as sexist by continuing to have only men at the forefront when all women serve? Is civil rights as sexist when black men were the spokespersons but women did all the work, and hip-hop inherited that sexism and misogyny? Come on.
From the world.
That's just not it, that's the world.
No, the first thing,
the
first thing is this. Trying to obfuscate an individual wrong by enumerating a bunch of other ones doesn't have anything to do with the issue. If I go to attack her and she's fighting me off, and I say, well, you know, there are a whole bunch of people in America who rape people. That doesn't change what I'm doing. That does not.
Wait. That individual responsible instead of holding the whole culture.
Everybody. Right. Now, T.I. Let me hold on. Let me let you come in on here real quick because he still didn't answer the question. But I want you to chime in.
This music has always been about what goes on in these neighborhoods. As Professor said, you know, he on the streets of Detroit, he heard a man say to a woman, you know, refer to her backside as her most valuable asset, if you will. So, of course, it's going to be reflected in hip-hop, which you will see on screen. But it started in the streets. And before it got to the street, it started in the house. And that person, that pimp, that person who you say is the scum of the earth, he was probably one of your sons. And you didn't spend enough time with him. So that's probably where it lies. That's probably where the problem lies. That's probably where the problem lies.
The problem is not that you're seeing this in hip-hop. The problem is that this is the only thing that you're seeing in hip-hop, and there's no longer diversity. When we look at hip-hop's earlier years, you saw so many different positive representations of women, but today, that is not what you're seeing. And no, there's nothing wrong with a woman being a video model and using that to further her career. But why can't women be looked at as intellectuals? So that's the thing. We have to stop looking at women as just one sort of thing. Okay, the only representation of women in hip-hop is the video model. No, women do many things.
But Jeff, this is what I was saying before when you cut me off before. Right. All I was saying is that when we talk about the reduction of black women's identity to something that is not essential to them and using them for purposes that don't elevate them, we can't start with hip-hop, because I was about to say 75% of the black church is constituted by black women. They can cook, they can clean, they can sew, they can pay their tithes, but they can't run the church they numerically dominate. That's ecclesiastical apartheid. You got women up in there who can't dominate the very institution they run. So I'm saying to you, you may not be calling a woman a bitch, a hoe, a skeezer, a slut, a chickenette, a hood rat, but if you treat them in a certain way, they become ecclesiastical hoes because you, as the preacher, become the pimp articulating a gospel that demonizes them.
Again, in part, and just as she said, not all earlier on in hip-hop, as she said from early on in hip-hop, there's still so many different types of diversified forms of hip-hop that are out there. But you know what? They don't see the light of day. You know why? Because the people don't buy it. You know why? Because the standards aren't set there in the home.
But can I challenge that?
When Two Live Crew come out and go triple platinum, and then you have Brand Nubian, who only sold 300,000 that year. You know what I'm saying? That just says what America wants to hear. Don't blame us for selling it, blame them for buying it.
Because you know what hip-hop is? Hip-hop is a mirror. All hip-hop is a mirror, and it's staring at America right back in his face. And that's what you're getting right now. It's a big mirror, and this is what you created. And America is looking in this mirror, and sometimes they don't like what they see, but it's what you created, and now it's due to us, like I said again, to work our way up out of it, but we got to start with the kids. We lost a generation. We lost a generation. We can't get that crack. We cannot get those early 90s, late 80s. We can't get that back. But if we don't start here and stop complaining about what was and start with the what is, we're going to forever be lost.
Before you come in, Dr. Dyson, because I want to deal with part of the what is. And I'm seeing around the country, hold up.
I got you.
White women, suburban women taking pole classes. Right, as a workout. Good. Now, we find ourselves in a place that hip-hop in many cases glamorized strippers. To the place where it's become acceptable in areas where traditionally it would have been put away.
Well, you made a very interesting point. You said glamorize. It didn't create it, glamorize it, glorifies it. That's one thing. Glorification and glamorization are, in one sense, an excessive concentration on something that's pre-existing, so they didn't create it. That's very important to say. And usually it's the extension of black male crotch or white male crotch. The challenge I would like to give to my beautiful, brilliant brothers here, T.I. and Nelly, yes, it is a mirror. Tupac said, somebody wake me, I'm dreaming. I started as a seed and semen, swimming upstream, planted in the womb while screaming. Okay, beautiful, but But it's not just a mirror. Martin Luther King Jr., if he worked off a mirror, would have said, I'm going to reflect back to white pathological society, the white supremacy they put in me. He said, no, it's not a mirror. I got a dream. A dream shatters the mirror that is reflected back to what they create in us, and we can create different models, paradigms, and understandings ourselves. So I would say, if in your videos you could have not only women shaking their behinds, but displaying the intellectual acuity that they possess that allows them to do something different than shake their behind. Where are the different images, even in your videos and in the videos of black people who are rap artists, that show something different? I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying we have to have a broader complex of images from which they can draw.
What you say that? People have to support. That's the videos. We're going to be out of business.
I did those videos.
If we put a bunch of school teachers in suit jackets and long skirts in our video, and BET say, what is this? We can't play this. What we gonna do?
Melissa. What's he saying? Because we've done those videos. So what are you saying? Do we take the sisters out and put in white women?
Oh, whoa. No, Melissa, I need you to come in. I need you to come in right here.
Up a whole
Melissa,
issue now.
I feel like I'm trying to get on the highway, and the cars are just going this way. I can't get on the highway.
Come on, get on the highway.
Come on in.
I mean, but let's not overcomplicate the situation. It's great to look at this as an intellectual conversation, but what are the kids listening to right now? Are they going to listen to T.I. and Nelly, or are they going to listen to the intellectuals? And we have to remember that when we put it in the music, in our messages. Now,
Kim is very accurate because a lot of times the images that are on our screen are because of the lyrical content. It's telling a story. Music tells a story. The videos play out the story of the lyrical content. Music has become extremely formulaic these days. It talks about a lifestyle that is extremely hard to emulate. Very few of us can actually afford the lifestyle that is portrayed in music videos these days. And a large portion of that lifestyle is to have not just one girl, not just two, but 20. And that lends credibility to this, to the virality of men, the stamina of the rap star. You know what I'm saying?
And what she's dealing with is here's the point we're not dealing with. We're talking about gender. It's not just about women. It's about men. Why are the narrow, emaciated, famished perceptions of men reduced to what we can do with our crotch or what we can do with our cash? Can we do something with our souls, our minds, our spirits? I'm just saying that.
Those images are there. Like, there are many artists that are putting out positive images talking about something different. They're not getting the right promotion. They're not getting the right play. I sat here with Nelly, and he said that his label doesn't even want him to be here today. So we have to look at that. Instead of attacking him for Tip Drill, which has all of a sudden defined his career.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what happened. Embrace the fact that he's here talking about it.
We are out of time, but the conversation doesn't end here. The issues discussed tonight have to be an ongoing part of all of our conversations, not just those on TV.
All of us have a stake in hip-hop's future, the labels, the artists, and especially the fans. If it dies, it's your fault.
Thank you all for watching. Thanks to our audience and to our guests. I'm Jeff Johnson.
I'm Toure. Peace.